I don't know, like the Police light.
Yeah, a little bit. But I have to say, their first album I still actually like. I think that the songwriting is pretty good, and it's very, very memorable pop songs. And the videos I thought were fantastic from those videos. They did 3 videos from that.
Yeah,
album.
they kind of had a comedic feel to them.
They did,
right?
yeah. They didn't really take themselves too seriously.
Which you kind of had to do. There had to be like a little Marx Brothers in your band, which I guess even the Beatles were doing that with their stuff back in, I guess could be considered videos like the Hard Day's Night stuff,
Yeah, there's been videos since the 60s, if you think about it, just they weren't as conceptual as, they became later in the 80s.
So when these bands broke, did MTV start to feel like, hey, we can break bands, we have power now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it became pretty clear, not only to MTV, but also the whole entire industry, that the channel suddenly had, clout. And then that suddenly, when you see the channel get a little more formatted as to, they're not just going to play all different styles of music. You're going to have an hour that's going to have heavy metal, an hour that's going to have rap music, an hour it's going to be, punk or alternative music. So suddenly with the success of the channel, then suddenly the formatting begins. Mm-hmm. Money starts coming in. I'm sure the big companies start having a say, as to what should be played when, and this type of music played at this time sells more records, so play at this time. So that's what happens as the years go on.
Which if you go back and see like what happened with FM radio, at first it was very, very free form, and then they came in and formatted the whole thing up. By the way, radio was shitting when this was all taking place.
Radio was shitty then. I have to say radio is shitty now, and that's what I like so much about Sirius, is that it kind of reminds me of the free form type of thing. There's stuff for everyone. It's not just you forced to hear one thing.
Yeah, because we're still enough. We're still the oddest thing I think about Sirius is like it's really too big right now to have enough suits to watch over everyone. And then also they went out of their way to hire people who wanted to do what they wanted to do. So right now, those people are in charge.
Yeah, I mean, the thing for me, what's the big difference, when I listen to regular radio, I can hardly find anything I even want to listen to, whereas Sirius, I always find something, by flipping the channels, I always find something that, I really like or something new to find.
Well, one of the people I think that was roughest on MTV works here at Sirius now, Dave Marsh.
Yes, I actually spoke to him for the book.
Yeah, I was reading his stuff through the book.
Right.
And he never had a good thing to say anywhere through it.
No. Yeah, I mean, he, again, I see a lot of people's different views. I mean, I really thought MTV early on was a really great thing. Mm-hmm. Then I also see Dave's point. I also interviewed Jello Biafra, the singer for the band Dead Kennedys.
Right.
And I could also see their point that, there were things wrong with the channel. Their biggest criticism at the time was there were not enough black artists played early on in the channel.
Yeah.
It really took Michael Jackson to break down the barriers with his Billie Jean and also Beat It videos.
And I'm not going to defend him for that, but, working in radio, radio is segregated and always, for a long, long time. And when I start working in FM radio, we would play classic rock people.
Right.
And not Hendrix. Yeah. And I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Right.
And they're like, no, kids don't like this.
Right.
And they would, and there was no reason to segregate. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was no government or corporate entities, no sponsors were saying, we don't want black kids buying our products. It was really done by the industry. And I think so many of the MTV guys were early, radio background there.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you there. I remember the playlists back then. When you tuned into a rock station, it was primarily white artists. And that's what I think the channel was trying to do early on, would just be like a rock station. Then slowly over the years, hip-hop comes in and all the other styles of music.
Well, they didn't know, I guess, what they were doing with MTV at first.
Yeah, I guess they were just trying to feel it out at the time. But again, like you said, I mean, it's a crime not to be playing stuff like Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Wonder and, great bands.
Insane.
Yeah.
Particularly when you have the opportunity to do it, when no one is stopping you.
Exactly. You could really break down a lot of, barriers and really, leave your mark on it.
And I think out of all the censorship stuff in the world, self-censorship is the most dangerous.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, well, I better not, who's making you do this? But the blatant thing of not picking Michael Jackson, which turned out to be, of course, ridiculous, since it really is now kind of the Michael Jackson era. What I mean? He is MTV.
Yeah, I mean, without him, I don't think MTV becomes as huge as it became and as accepted and like widespread as far as popularity and everything like that.
And like we said, the videos today are still based. The dance moves are based on his dance moves.
Yep.
The choreography everything there. Now, in terms of big directors, right away it wasn't big film directors, right? That
No, I mean the first big film director is for the Thriller video, which was John Landis. Yeah, that's really the big one. But I was able to speak to a few video directors for this book, and they have some pretty cool stories about working with Michael Jackson and Van Halen and a lot of those cool videos.
Who were some of the strong directors?
I interviewed Pete Angelis, who directed all the great Van Halen videos like Hot for Teacher and the David Lee Roth videos like Going Crazy and also California Girls. And I also interviewed Bob Giraldi, who did Beat It. And he also did Hello by Lionel Richie, which is a hilarious video.
Yeah, it's great. Well, he came out of the commercial field, right? He was a big TV commercial guy.
He was.
And then I think went on to be a producer of television and stuff. It was
and now he's into restaurants. I think he definitely made off pretty well. Yeah.
Well, he's all about style. Everything with that guy. Everything has to be stylish.
Yeah.
When did it all start to fall apart in terms of the early first wave?
For me as a viewer, I remember about 85. I think it peaked in 84. 85, you could say, is when the original VJs start leaving and everything gets a lot more formatted. And then suddenly it becomes very predictable. And by like 86 or 87, it's not anything like it was when it first went on the air.
It's very interesting because I think anybody who saw it at first, without even knowing this, but when the early VJs started to leave, you start to think to yourself, well, this is not for me then. It's like it's almost like if you were in school and your friends started graduating, you're like, well, yeah, why am I still hanging around school?
Yeah, or it's almost maybe like when you like a band, like you're the only one that really finds this band, no one knows about them, then you see this band get huge, and then you suddenly feel like, well, this isn't like my little secret anymore. Now everyone knows about it, that kind of thing.
Now, when you look back and kids don't have this centralized music thing today, which I guess is by choice. I know that they can get their music on Facebook, YouTube, on and on and on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you kind of lose something, I think, culturally by not having that kind of touchstone.
Yeah, well, the thing is, too, what I talk about with the channel is places like Kansas, suddenly they saw what kids were wearing in London and also New York, so now suddenly kids in Kansas that were wearing cowboy hats and cowboy boots are suddenly dressed like flock of seagulls. They suddenly have those wacky hairstyles and, all these, type of clothes that reflect the videos they're seeing.
Yeah, and it's a very strange thing, and the internet has done that too, where the Lower East Side is like wide open to any kid around the world. Now, that if somebody starts to wear something cool in Brooklyn, there's no reason that a kid 5 minutes later, living anywhere in the world, can't turn around and pick it up. Which
personally I think is great. I love when different cultures collide and everything gets all mixed up with everything, with music. Really just about everything. I like when things like that happen.
All right, the other book you got coming out at the same time is the Eric Carr story. What pulled you into this one?
Well, how I got into music when I was young was Kiss. I think a lot of people my age. I'm 38 right now. I think a lot of people my age first got into music through Kiss because they were in 79, 1980 really aimed at children, pretty much. And I stuck with them for probably longer than a lot of my friends did. And in 1980, Eric Carr replaced Peter Criss in the band as the drummer. And a few years later, Kiss put out an album called Creatures of the Night. And at that point, Kiss's popularity was at like an all-time low. They were trying to play arenas, and they were only like half full. But that album, I think, goes down as one of Kiss's top 5 albums. And Eric Carr had a lot to do with that because the drum sound is phenomenal. It reminds me of kind of like Zeppelin. It's a huge, huge drum sound, and it really helped make that album as special as it was, and that was all because of him, Eric Carr.
So why were they not as popular with their fans at that time?
I think at that point they were trying to do what maybe critics wanted, were hoping, or wanted to see them, they wanted to see them maybe branch out from just heavy metal and try different things like pop music and disco and concept albums, which they did from about 1979 through 1981. And in 1982 is when they finally got back to their roots and did that Creatures album, which is a glorious heavy metal album.